Jesus Revolution tells the story of a revolution that occurred in California in which thousands of individuals, particularly young people, came to know Christ because of the preaching of some specific men.
This is your home, and I want you to tell all your friends about it.
And it's a really nice story in that regard. And when you talk about a movie like this, it's kind of interesting to discuss because there's two ways that you have to look at it. You have to look at it from the religious perspective and what it gives there. And then you also have to look at it on the movie perspective and is it able to tell the story in a way that is memorable? Is it able to get you invested in the characters? And that's kind of where I get a little bit of a divide with this film. On the religious side of things, there are a lot of wonderful lessons that occur in this movie that have some great impacts on the audience and can really teach us a lot of powerful things. Some of the most notable lessons that I enjoyed in this movie is the fact that it emphasizes finding truth. And it talks about that it is in Christ that we find truth, which of course is something that we know to be true, and that Christ often taught us is that he is the source of all truth and that we should turn to him, we should turn to God to find answers and to find what we're looking for. And you see that a lot in this movie, particularly in the way of these hippies who kind of transition from trying to seek that truth through drugs and through the addiction and instead transitioning into finding it in Christ. And I do love that aspect of the film. There's also just a lot of great messages about learning to serve others and to love them where they are and to try and help them based off of what they come to you as. You see some elements that tie in directly with some of the teachings of Christ himself and some of the things that he did. There's one really great part in this movie where you see the pastor washing the feet of everyone who's coming to the church because the other people were worried that they would make the rugs dirty. And so he washes their feet, which calls back to what Christ did with his disciples. And so there's a lot of great things like that to be found in this film. You have a lot of enjoyable actors. If you're familiar with the Chosen series, there's a couple of them that actually make an appearance in this film, especially the character man who plays Jesus, Jonathan Romy, I believe his name is. And he plays one of the main characters in here, and he was a lot of fun. I enjoyed him. He was one of the few characters that I was actually able to get invested in. I felt kind of intrigued by. He also has a few parts that make some Chosen jokes, and so if you're familiar with that show, they do kind of play into that a little bit, and it's just pretty fun. As far as characters though, he's probably one of the only ones that are super interested in. The other one would be Greg, and kind of seeing his transition. He's kind of the main character. You get a little bit more of his backstory, and all of that stuff was interesting. But this film does have a lot of different stories that occur in it. There's a lot of different things that are happening with a lot of different people. And some of it was more interesting than others. And that's where my big kind of problems with this film come, is that there's just a lot that didn't really need to be there. Especially as you get towards the end of the film, something that I was kind of having an issue with is that it felt like it was just longer than what it needed to be. The last 20 minutes or so, I was just kind of waiting for things to wrap up. And there were several instances where it felt like it was the wrap up and then we'll go on to something else. And so I wish that they had maybe made it a little bit shorter, maybe condensed the stories, not had to include every single aspect of the storyline, because it feels like it's a story about Greg. It feels like it's supposed to be about him, but then it keeps jumping over and telling all the stories of these other characters. And I feel like if they had maybe just focused it more on Greg, it would have been a little bit shorter, it would have been a little bit better. But overall, guys, it really is still a lot of fun. And like I said, the big thing with this one is that it's just got those good messages to it. If you are a Christian, if you like learning about that kind of stuff, then I think you're really going to enjoy this film. There are a lot of things to love about it. As far as when it comes to families, though, this is one that I would recommend that you can take your family to. Being a Christian film, there's really not much that you have to worry about in it. The one exception to this movie being that hippies do play a significant part. And so there is some drug use and there's things that occur there. And so you got to look out for that kind of stuff. But overall, it's worth watching. It's got a lot of great messages. It's got a lot of fun stories, some good characters. And it's clean and you can take anybody you want, just about any age to be able to watch this. And so I'm going to go ahead and give this one a B-. But anyways, guys, those are my thoughts on Jesus Revolution. Have you had the opportunity to see it yet? If you have, let us know down in the comments what you thought. and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.